there's a lot of very scary stuff going on at night. People are being abducted by the millions all over the world. And there is a hybrid program going on, which point I made in the book. There's good reason to be not want to be the subject of painful probings on spaceships and perhaps unwanted pregnancies. So it's logical. I mean, it's a question of knowing the players, knowing who's involved, knowing which ETs you really want to be in contact with. So because the Greys and the reptilians have been given a free hand in doing what they want to do with us, there's reason to be afraid.
And so what is your experience? I know you have a broad and vast experience with these different stories. Why don't you let's jump into specific topics that we'll cover for the next hour. And, maybe we'll go off into side discussions or we may have calls or something. But what I'm really curious about is what you feel is really going on in Egypt right now. You talk about the Iraqi Stargate in your book, and let's begin there, if you will. We'll go back to what we were just talking about later in the show. What do you feel, what is the Iraqi Stargate?
Well, it's a device that was left behind, I believe. I'm convinced that that was the case by the Anunnaki when they left. And I believe that Saddam Hussein had great hopes of using that device, learning how to use it. And if he did, it would be an awesome weapon. It would be an awesome piece of technology that perhaps could literally negate any technological advantage that we had. So there is some information on the internet about this device. I consider it a Stargate. It's been called a Stargate by William Henry. Have you had William Henry on your show?
I haven't, but I know him. So I'm familiar with his work, yes.
So you know that he talks about this at length.
Yes, he does.
And, so Zecharia Sitchin sort of got close to it with his Stairway to Heaven, but he never made that final push to talk about Stargates. It was his viewpoint that the aliens came here in spaceships, rocket-powered spaceships, which, of course, now we know would be impossible. So I think William Henry has a better take on this, that they travel through vast distances, not on physical ships, but through stargates.
Are we talking teleportation here? There's rumors that we have that technology.
Basically.
Okay, so we're talking like a teleportation kind of technology that would allow travel between different worlds, and we're absolutely out of what we're taught in physics class 101 in high school, aren't we? Basically, this is not technology. I made that point in the book about the old physics the old physics no longer applies. Yeah.
We have a whole new physics now. The scientists and physicists who work for the secret programs in the what we call the black world or the military-industrial complex, they're using a whole different kind of physics. They already know all about anti-gravity. They know about free energy from the vacuum. They had to. Now they're not going to put that out there because it would create an energy revolution, and it would free us all from the need for fossil fuels. But we're not graduating physicists who know this new physics. And Paul makes that point in his book, the anti-gravity. Paul Leavitt's book about anti-gravity. So we have only a few pioneers, like somebody like Michio Kaku and people of that stripe, who are finally getting to the truth little by little, but it's not being put out there.
Yeah, so Paul's his book was called "The Secrets of Anti-Gravity Propulsion."
Right, exactly,
and it's an incredibly important book for people to read and to understand. One of the questions I get asked a lot, and I would like your opinion on this, is if these people are exposing and disclosing such confidential information and such, super classified, how are they able to publish books, and how are they able to really, how are they allowed to really talk about these programs and this kind of information?
Well, they're not. That's the point. Paul's a renegade. He gets away with it because he's such a brilliant physicist and because he has such a great background in other subjects, archaeology and mythology. He's able to put it all together. The average physicist who comes out of the universities today doesn't have that kind of a broad stroke that Paul does. So Paul was able to put it together.
So having the broad background that he had in archaeology and all of the other areas of study that the dots were easier to connect.
Exactly, because the physicists and scientists working under black programs are sworn to secrecy, and they're never going to reveal anything. So they're afraid of having their families killed or them getting killed. I mean, that's how serious it is.
Yeah. No, it isn't just something that people just decide to write a book one day and expose something and then they go about their lives. So there's real repercussions with getting into the world of exposing this. Now, now that we really are kind of, because of the internet, able to share this information with the masses, with people all over the world, and information is coming out on large levels. And, people don't understand why we can't get off our you-know-whats and do something about the energy technology. I've had Dr. Greer on. I've had his scientists in his program on. I've talked to a lot of people. I've brought a lot of researchers on the air to discuss free energy technology. And when I have a conversation with somebody, in fact, I had one this evening before the show, and I was talking about what we were going to be discussing tonight with this person, and they said, well, I don't understand why people don't, get really excited about this information and demand it. And, what are your thoughts on that? Why aren't people standing up and saying, enough is enough? We want to know now what's really going on.
Well, when you say demand it, when you talk about science and you talk about physics, it has to be done on a large scale. It has to be on a university level. The science departments of most of the large universities, I'm talking even the Ivy League universities, are very, very conservative. They're not going to go out on a limb with these new technologies. First of all of their funding will dry up. All their corporate funding will go away. They'll have no further link with the military-industrial complex, which they rely on heavily. Why would they do such a thing?
Yeah,
they are literally afraid to. Even if there is occasionally a renegade or an iconoclastic scientist that wants to do it, he's quickly silenced.